Hey everyone, it's Andrew. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a video doing an unboxing, review, and put together of the RedLemon Mid-Century Fluted Dresser. This is going to be a 5-drawer fluted dresser that you can currently get on Amazon for about $179. I purchased this in their antique white color, but they also have a walnut color and a natural oak color. This one is going to be more of like their vertical drawer set, but they also have a longer like armoire or kind of wider one that is 54 by 15 by 32 dimensions. So depending on what you need, you can either purchase one or both. Additionally, they do have a side table that I purchased and already put together, so you can check out that video as far as putting it together and the steps involved. But what we'll do is I'll show you the side table just to give you a sense of what that one looks like because it's identical to this. Then we'll walk through putting this together. This is the side table that's matching. So this is the antique white. So it's gonna have a walnut surface and then this antique white color. All the top, this front of the drawer, the front of the drawer here, and then the sides is more of like a sturdier composite material. But the inner part, like the drawers and the shelf are, what's it called? Particle board. So it's a mix of like solidish wood and more of like this cheaper particle board. But it's a very nice end table, very large. So if you see, I've actually got 3 whole plants on it. Additionally, on the back side of this, it actually has a power cord that has 2 outlets as well as 2 USB-C port or USB-A ports. I didn't actually know it had that, so it was a pleasant surprise to see that because it gives you accessibility if you use this as a nightstand to power outlets, lights, and that sort of thing. Okay, so here is everything that comes in the box. I took it all out so you can see it in front of you. So there's going to be pieces that should go in the middle or the back for support, or actually these might be the side. These are going to be slanted pieces. These will go on the front. Okay, that's going to be exposed, so the slants will be exposed in the front. This is all drawer material. So there's 5 sets of drawers for the fluted one, and then basically there's going to be 10 side pieces like this. Right? And then there's going to be 5 back pieces. This will go on the back of the drawer. This will go 5 pieces that'll go in the middle as a support. And I believe this should be probably something that goes in between the drawers so that it kind of exposes it like that. Then there's the instruction manual, hardware, okay. These are all the drawer pieces. We'll go through them, but there's some subtle nuances here to make sure you're using it the right way. I screwed that up last night when I put it together the other one. There's the legs itself, which are going to be slanted. We'll walk through how to put those on so you don't put it in the wrong direction. This is going to be the top of the piece, which is this walnut design. This is only for packaging. The nice part is they put that on this so you don't need it. They have a couple other pieces there too that said that as well. This company is really good with the instructions and attention to detail. I really like it. And then this is the bottom, so the legs go on here. All right. Again, this is slanted, so the slant goes in the front. And then lastly are all these like panel inserts for the drawer that will go into the drawers. And I actually realized that these pieces here are probably the back of it because the nightstand actually had a panel like this, but this is not included, so these are back, so there's like particle board for the backing. As far as looking at this is virtually identical to the side table as far as construction. So if you purchase both of them, I would recommend start with the side table, do that because it's smaller and you'll understand what it involves and the time process it is. And so if you screw that up a little bit, you won't be as frustrated versus once you get into this, if it's bigger and you don't know and stuff like that, it'll be frustrating and you're more likely to say call it quits or get angry or something like that. Okay, so steps 1 and 2 are going to be the same, but we'll explain them each by 8. So in the hardware, there's going to be these screws where it's going to have a Phillips head screwdriver on the one side and this will screw into the wood. You will need a screwdriver for this. That's the only thing you will need. I believe. But if you look at this panel, basically there's going to be 7 places where you're going to put these screws. So there's going to be 1 here, the smaller hole, 1 here in the middle, one here on the back side down here. Then there's gonna be one right here, okay? One right here, one right here, and one right here. If you look at the diagram, it's pretty straightforward. But as far as when you use these, if you have not used them, this is very common for IKEA furniture too, so it brings me nightmares. But basically just screw this in, and you do not want to over tighten it. Okay, so that's what it looks like after step 1 and 2. You've got all 7 of the screws in. Okay, so the next step is we're gonna actually be installing the drawer slides onto these pieces. And so there's some subtle nuances for this that if you don't pay attention, you can screw up. So over time I've learned the best way to do this. And so there's gonna be 5 separate drawers. There's gonna be drawer inserts that go onto the drawer that you insert in. And then there's gonna be drawer inserts that, or drawer kind of structure, framing that goes on here. And there's some subtle differences. So what I first did was I literally took them all. These are Q, P, M, and N, and I laid them all out. Made sure I had all 5 for each. I think it was this product last night where some of these were mislabeled, where it should have been like an S and it was labeled as like R. And so I had to look at it and confirm that I had all the pieces, but that's something. So make sure you have all 5 and that they're identical. The other thing is when you lay this out, put all the wheels pointing this direction. That helps you avoid putting these on in the wrong location. So just do that, don't mix it up, and just pay attention to this because it can avoid some hassle. Now the difference between these, this is for example M and P, okay? So if you look here, P is going to be the one that goes on the drawer. And so there's gonna be a wheel, and then there's gonna be this L-shaped part, and that's what's gonna actually drill or screw into the drawer when you insert it. So for now, you do not need the Q's or P's. And so take those and put them to the side for now, all right? And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna look at M and N, so they're labeled, so just follow the instructions, pick the one you need. So for example, the first step, step 3, is gonna be using N, not M as in Mary. But the difference here is if you look at it, the wheel's on both sides, but what happens is there's an insert here for where the drawer or the wheel for the drawer goes in, and one's pointing this way versus the other's pointing that way. And so when you put it on the drawer, you're gonna need it both oriented in the same way. So the wheel, you're gonna want it oriented in the same direction so that when you insert this, the wheel engages with this and the drawer slides down. If you flip it around like this, it won't work. If you flip it upside down or anything like that, it won't work. So that's why I'm emphasizing this and kind of saying it that way, just to avoid it, because I hate when I've done that in the past and I've kind of tried to ponder through like doing one at a time and sorting it through. But the best way to do this is literally take them each one by one, line it up, and then put them on here lined up, make sure it's all right, and then screw everything in just so you avoid the hassle and frustration of having to redo things. This is what it's gonna look like when you have it lined up, all right? So a couple things that you can do to confirm you have this right, all right, is that the slant here, okay, is going to be the front of the drawer. So this is the front on this one, and then this is the front on this one, okay? So what you wanna make sure is that of all the drawer inserts, all of the wheels are pointing towards the front, all right? So every single one is pointing towards the front. All right, the next thing you wanna do is confirm that the wheel insert from the front goes down into it, okay? So all that's right, and then this one is right, okay? So the insert's okay. The other way is also confirm that this is the bottom because that's the front. Make sure that there's drawer space above it. All right, drawer space above it. Same thing, this is the front side, drawer space above it. Okay, and if you envision this, this is gonna come up this way, all right, and this one's gonna come up this way, so all of it's gonna be aligned that way. The other way to just confirm is that this is number 3 and this is number 2. And let me just verify is that number 3 is gonna go with N, and that's what this is. So all the N's are on 3 and all the M's are on 2. M as in Mary for 2. So that's how you double check. So now we have these lined up. Before we do that, you're gonna need to make sure you have the right screws. So in here, there's 2 separate screws. There's gonna be long ones. You don't want that. For this, for the drawers, you want the shorter ones, okay? And now, as far as these drawers, one thing I didn't mention yet is look at the diagram, but basically you're going to be using this first hole for closest to the wheel for this. And so what you want to do is line up the first hole to the wheel, okay? That's another area where you can screw up. So if you have the wrong alignment, the offset for how deep the drawer is going to be off. Or if you mess it up on one, then you can run into issues later on where it's like one drawer doesn't work and you're gonna be like, why doesn't this work? And it's half built, and then you're gonna have to take it apart, and I've done that before. So that's why I'm paranoid about that, but make sure each one is lined up. Subtle details, the end table or the side table for the other one actually used the 3rd hole. So last night I used the 3rd hole on it. So just know the differences there and pay attention to that, because if you do the same thing for this one, or like use the first hole on that one, it's not gonna be right. So just pay attention, you can watch that video, but now you just basically go ahead and screw every single one of these in. And there's some subtle nuances to this, is that one, you do not want to over tighten it, so you don't want to crack the wood in this instance, because you can damage it or break it or something like that, obviously. But the other thing is you do not want to under tighten it, because if the screw head is sitting upright too far, sometimes when you put the drawer in later on, it'll hit the wheel and it won't go all the way in. And so that might be an issue, is if like you put this together and you notice that one of the drawers is like partially going in and then it kind of gets caught. Usually it's because one of these screws is not far enough in and it's sitting upright too far, and you just have to tighten it down. The other thing is to know is that like if you use this for a long period of time, sometimes that drawer issue arises later on. What happens usually is that like the drawer loosened up and it started pulling out, or pulling the screw out. And so sometimes you have to retighten those screws later on. So if you have it for say a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever amount of time, and you notice the drawer is getting caught all of a sudden, usually it's because you have to tighten it. But those are the kind of nuances to this, okay? And now you just have to do every single screw. Okay, so this is what it looks like at this point. So you're all done with these 2 components for the time being. All right, and then next up, we're on step 5, which is going to be putting the back panel together. What you'll need is the wood dowels that are labeled K. And if you look here, there are 2 packages. One is going to be labeled A, and then the other is K. The K ones are what we're going to use for this. Here, when you lift it up, there's going to be 5 holes, and all you have to do is just slide this directly into here. It's not too complex. Just make sure you use the right dowels and you don't mix them up wherever the other one is. Okay, and then after that, what you want to do is actually just put these together, because the next step will involve that. And so in order to do that, just line up the holes, make sure it's all the way flush, and there you go. If it's offset a little bit, just readjust it. And before we get to the next step, one thing you do want to confirm is that all the holes are pointing upwards. If you have it where it's no holes, you have to flip it around because it's facing the wrong direction. All right, so step 6 is a little bit complicated, but we'll get through it. So basically what you're going to be doing is attaching part 2 to the side of this, okay? And then you're going to be taking 6, which I believe is the white pieces, I'll look in a second, and attaching that to the front of it. And so the first step that you want to do is actually put the inserts on the side of this, so we'll do that now. And then as far as confirming the right orientation, what you want to do is, this is going to be panel number 2, all right? As we discussed earlier, the slanted part goes towards the front, okay? So when you put this together, essentially this is gonna sit like this, and this is gonna be the front of the drawer, that's gonna be the back of the drawer, right? And then the other way to confirm this is that the bottom part, okay, has the bottom rail all the way down at the bottom. If you have it flipped around, it's gonna be offset, right? So you could flip it the wrong way and have it that way. And then the other thing, it doesn't say in the instructions, but lay out the other side as well, just to confirm that you're like lined up appropriately. Okay, the next step, if you've never done this before, is there's these pieces that have a screw on one end. What you're gonna wanna do is find all the holes that go to the side. So there's gonna be one here on this piece, one here on this piece, one here, and one here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total, okay? And then what you want to do is put these, if you look at it, if you've never dealt with this, there's a slot like this where this piece is going to go into. And so you want that slot pointing outwards towards that. And so just put the slot in the right orientation. Okay, so next up you're going to need the wood dowels to be installed. So basically all these hinges usually have a wood dowel. So on each of these boards, if you look here, you put this slot into, or this piece into this slot here. That's where the screw is going to go in, but next to it is another hole. You'll put a dowel on each of these. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay? And then on this panel here, there's one hole here, which will need a dowel, and one hole here, which will need a dowel. And then next up, you're going to have to align this so that the side comes in to this other piece. So very carefully lift this, and you're going to have to, it might be a little bit of a tough angle, but just slide it in, make sure that this piece goes in, the dowel goes in, this piece goes in, and this piece goes in, and then make sure all of it's flush, okay? If it's not flush, sometimes what happens is when you put these in, it's the wrong direction, and so it catches as this piece is coming in. If that's the case, sometimes what you have to do is just go counterclockwise, and that'll get the slot appropriately. But make sure it's all in, and then what you have to do is tighten this. Don't go crazy, because if you over tighten it, it can split the wood or pull the bolt out. So really it's just to secure it so that it engages with the bolt, all right? All right, and then the next step, it might be difficult, we'll see how this goes, but basically what you want to do is line up this bolt with this hole here, all right? And then get it secure. And so this is a good example where the bolt's not the right position. And so if you kind of finagle this, it lines up appropriately. And then what you do is once it's flush, you tighten it. And just be very careful with this piece. Don't like hit it or bang it, because you can break this. All right, so the next step is to virtually do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, so I finally got them on. The way I did that, after trying multiple different ways, was I took my knees, bumped against the bottom here to push in, and then basically like very carefully line these up. And so now we're all lined up. We're gonna make sure that these are all flush, and then we're gonna tighten them, and hopefully none of them break in the process, because that would just be annoying. Okay, so those 4 are tight. We're gonna just confirm that everything else is tight, because I messed with everything and I don't know what I did versus not. And then we're gonna push the back in, all right? Okay, so hopefully we're back on track after that hiatus, but next up, sorry, this is upside down, is step 8, and what you're gonna do is put these screws on the top piece, okay? So there's going to be a total of 8 holes. There's gonna be 1 here, there's gonna be 2 dowel holes, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. And so we'll just do that now. Okay, so that's all of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Next up, you're gonna be on step 9. So first off, what you're gonna have to do is insert the dowels. And so on the corners here, there's gonna be, or edge, there's gonna be 2 dowels there. One of these rolled away. Then there's gonna be 1 here, 1 here, okay, 1 here, and then 1 here. Okay, next up you have to prep the top in order to install this top piece onto here. So you have to put these, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total. And next up you're gonna put the top onto this. One thing to keep in mind when you do this is that, as we discussed, this slanted edge has to face out. So it's not like this where it points downwards, okay? Because you'll have it wrong, all right? What you want it to do is flip it around like this so that the slant is in line with the other slant. Okay, so for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how to get this on and lined up when it was flat. So I did turn it upwards. Just be careful with that because this back seam isn't really secure yet. So you could split it if it falls or anything like that. And then the other thing I did was I put all the pegs in this piece so that they don't fall out when I put the top on. So there's 6 pegs now back on this piece rather than the top. And that should allow us to do this. Now, everything's flush, okay? So now you have to tighten those bolts down. Okay, so now that you have a visual, what you wanna do is make sure everything is flush, okay? And that it's all secure. And then what you want to do is tighten these each one by one. Okay, so I actually realized that we skipped a step. So I thought that was the top that we're installing. That's actually the bottom because the holes are on the bottom. So you need the white piece, but virtually the exact same thing you're going to do for the bottom. So what I would recommend doing is just doing the bottom or the top, whichever order. It won't make a difference, but we'll prep the bottom and I'll show you that. Okay, so if you recall, the first step is going to be putting these screws. Okay, so that's what it looks like. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the screws in. Okay, so first off, we're gonna put the dowels on the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then you have to put these pieces back in here, so have them all pointing upwards or towards the bottom of the thing. And then we're gonna put the top on, and remember the slanted part goes outwards, don't have it flipped around. Okay, so then you come in here and tighten these all up. Okay, so next up we're going to attach the legs to the bottom, which is the white piece. And so if you look here, each one is labeled differently and they have stickers on it to reflect that. But this is basically if we have it turned upside. So this 17 is this piece, 15 goes there, 18 goes on this corner here, and then 16 goes over there. And so what you want to do is just look at this, all right? And just pair it up. So 17 is gonna go back here. 16, which is this one, will go here. 15 will go here. And then 18 will go here, right? Now the other thing you wanna do when you do this is look at the legs and they should be pointing out towards the corner. So this is pointing out this way, pointing out that way, pointing out that way, and pointing out that way. If you have it the opposite way, which you can do, if you turn it this way, it'll point inwards. You can't turn it this way, so like the holes don't line up, so it's either gonna point that way or it's gonna point to the corner. And basically you want the everything pointing to the corner, and that's what you're gonna do. This is with the Allen wrench as well as the Allen wrench provided. And what I would do is just hand tighten each of these so you know that it lines up with all the holes. And then come with the Allen wrench. You could probably turn it on this way and then start it that way. And then come back with it shaped this way. Oop, don't righty tighty. And then tighten it. Remember, don't over tighten it, but I think these bolts go into a piece of metal because it's like the leg, so it's more stable. Because if it went straight into the wood, it wouldn't be able to support the weight. So get it all the way tight on this instance because this is load bearing, and that's all you have to do. So do each of that for all of the legs. Okay, so now that's all complete. Just verify and confirm that the legs are pointing outwards like you see here. All right, and then next up, we're gonna start working on the drawers. All right, so this is what it looks like so far. So you've got the darker walnut top on the top, the lighter on the sides. You've got that slanted edge facing the front, verify that. Otherwise, you have all the drawers attached as far as the railings, and then these front portions, and then you have the legs. So I just realized that I did not have the microphone on my camera. So a lot of times what I'll try to do is voiceover, but I'm not entirely sure where or when the microphone was off. It was probably when I took a break between finishing that part in the drawers. So we're gonna summarize this real quick because I did finish one drawer and it's a good example of it. But what I want you to do is take all the drawer components. There's going to be a longer piece like this, okay? This is gonna have a groove for the drawer insert. There's gonna be 2 screw holes in the top back, okay? And I want you to lay that out, all 5 of them, all right? Next up, I want you to grab the side pieces. If you look at these, they are different. There's gonna be a total of 10 of them, 1 for the right side, or 5 for the right, 5 for the left. When you look at this, again, there's a groove on the top for the drawer insert, and then there's 2 holes in the back. When you do this, what you want to do is set it so that the 2 holes in the back can insert into this back panel. So when you put this together, it's going to come like this. So if you look at this, it's going to insert here, and there's going to be 2 screws here. So line that up for that, okay? And make sure the insert for the drawer is lined up with that edge, all right? And then do the exact same thing for the other side here. So 2 holes in the back, and then the edge, and line it up like that, all right? Next up, this is something that I screwed up last night and actually screwed it up again this time, or almost screwed it up, but I walked through it this time, is there's gonna be this shorter piece, all right? It's gonna have a hole here, which is accessible for those bolts that we've been using, and then there's gonna be 2 holes in the back. How this inserts into the back is basically it's going to get screwed into the back with 2 screws here. What you want to make sure, and this is where I screw up because it's flipped around when you have it laid out, you want to make sure that that hole is exposed this direction, okay? So that it's not inside the drawer, because when you put the drawer insert in, you won't be able to access this, so you'll have to take it apart. So I did that last night and I almost did it again today. So what I mean by that is make sure that the holes are exposed upwards, all right? And when you look at this piece, this hole is exposed here. If you have it flipped and the hole is in here, when you put the drawer insert to put the face on, you're not gonna be able to access this, and you'll have to take it apart and flip it. So hopefully you avoid that, but that's the steps, okay? After that, what I want you to do is, 1, pause this, get this all organized, all right? And then the next step is take the screws and put 2 screws on either end and 2 screws in the middle, and do that for all of them, all right? So pause this, do that now, all right? And then now what you wanna do is just put the drawer together. And so the easiest way is what you wanna do is just line up the hole here, get it hand tightened so that it's engaged with the hole that's pre-existing, all right? You don't want to screw it in the wrong direction because it can split the particle board. And then tighten it, all right? And in this instance, I would just tighten one of them so that it can hold upright, so you don't need to keep on maneuvering this. Don't over tighten it, so if you hear any creaking, stop, because that means the wood's gonna split. All right, so that's that side. And then it's just difficult because there's a lot, but basically do the exact same thing for the other side. Okay, so that is done. All right, so now what you want to do is just verify. It's almost impossible to kind of flip it around, but verify that the seam is all there, okay? And then the next step is going to be putting this insert in here. All right, again, remember, make sure the hole is exposed pointing outwards. You don't want it like this because it's gonna point there. So make sure the hole is pointing upwards and you can see it. And then there's gonna be 2 screws in the back here, which will just make sure you engage it in here, and then you can tighten it. I'm not gonna do that now, but it's gonna look like this. Just verify everything looks okay, and then we'll put in the drawer inserts. Okay, so now that you completed all the drawers, make sure you don't see any holes. Then you're gonna turn each of these on their side like this. All right, and then wherever they are, you're gonna put these inserts in, okay? So if you have the hole exposed, you're gonna realize that you're covering it up in the process, but basically just slide this into this slot. Make sure it's all the way flush, all right? And do that for each of these. And then one piece of advice I did want to provide is that all these pieces commonly have the sticker still on them. Rather than ripping this off and having like sticky residue or like damaging the surface, what I recommend doing is just inserting it so that it's not in the inside of the drawer. And so what I mean by that is that, there. The sticker is pointing downwards, so you can't see it in the drawer. So if you look, it's not exposed at all. Okay, so just like every other step, lay everything out that you need. So there's gonna be 5 drawer faces, okay? There's gonna be a groove at the top, and then there's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. This is the front surface, the fluted design. And then basically what you have to do is just put these screws into, 5 screws into those holes. Okay, so that's what it looks like. So there's 5 total, and then you have to do that for each of these. Okay, so that's what it looks like. You've got all the drawers prepped with the 5 screws in place. Now we're gonna have to prep each of the drawers with those inserts that correspond to each of these. Okay, so now you need to prep this in order to do this, and you'll be using those parts that I've been breaking the entire time. But there's going to be 5 slots on this. What you want to do is there's going to be 2 side ones, and you want to point the hole pointing upwards. There's going to be 1 on the bottom here, and then 2 on the side here. It just so happens that my hands are kind of gross from this, but I broke a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 of these throughout this process. They actually provided an extra spare 2 of these in an extra bag, and then I keep all the parts from my other builds just on chance that something breaks. So I had 1 more, but I'm actually 1 shy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just remember which drawer I used, and then I'm gonna reach out to the company to have them send more of these. All right, after that step, all you have to do is insert this onto the drawer face. Make sure it's lined up on all the holes and that it's flush, okay? And then basically you have to, on the usual sense, tighten the sides, and so it's tight. So this is what the drawers look like afterwards, okay? And that's everything for that step as far as putting together the drawers, so do that for each of the drawers. All right, and then the next step, you're going to need to access the bottom of the drawer, so line it up so the bottom is facing upwards and it's exposed. Okay, so now we're on to step 17, which is gonna be attaching the mounts to this. There's some subtle details that you'll have to pay attention to this, and we'll go through it. But basically you want the wheels facing the back of the drawer. If you have it the other way where the wheel's facing like the front of the drawer, it's not right, so pay attention to that. And then we'll have to figure out which hole is the right one, which it looks like it's the 3rd hole, so it's 1, 2, 3. And so on the, if you have the drawer where the facing, how it's lined up now, where they're all facing away from me, sorry, you can't see it on camera, you want the P to be on the left-hand side and the Q to be on the right-hand side. So go back to your attention to detail, line up all the P's, okay? Like this, make sure you have all of them and all the Q's, and then have all the wheels pointing that direction. All right, so you're gonna take all the P's and put them on the this side, where it's the left side if the white part's facing away from you. And then how it's gonna line up is it's gonna line up like this, where the 3rd hole is gonna line up here. So you can just put this on the side, but take all the P's, put them over here, the wheel facing the back side of the drawer, all right? Okay, and just verify, at least the first one, that basically the drawer, that the wheel's facing the back, and the 3rd hole lines up, all right? And then line that up. Okay, so next up, what you're gonna do is just screw this in. So make sure the wheel's facing backwards. Fortunately for this drawer, really, as long as it's flush with the front, you don't have to worry about the holes. However, just make sure you don't misalign it, because then you'd have excess in the back. So just put it flush to the front. And then what you're gonna do is just put these screws into here. And so very similarly, line up the screw and do this. Obviously, it's the same thing, so we don't need this on camera. All right, so we're almost done, but there is one more hiccup that can screw you up here when you're putting the drawers in. And that's that 3 of the drawers are gonna have square edges. So for instance, The bottom and the top are basically square and right angle edges. And then two of the drawers, both the top and the bottom's gonna have a curve here, okay? So if you look, that's the bottom drawer because it has a curve, and the face of that is gonna be curved. And then the top drawer is gonna be the opposite of that, where if you look, okay, that's there's a curve here. So this is the actual drawer size, so that's like hand comparison. Compared to other dressers, it is pretty narrow, and the reviews online did say that, so I was kind of cognizant of that. My setup in my apartment is I'm gonna be using this dresser for kind of readily accessible clothes, but I have a walk-in closet for the rest. One thing that I'm noticing though is this was like hit or miss with like the online reviews, was that the drawers kind of getting caught here. So it's not as smooth. So what I'm gonna do is pull this out and check out what's going on there and see if there's any issue. Okay, so this is literally an example of what I was saying earlier, where there were two screws there that weren't all the way in. And so it's hitting the screws. So if you notice it catching, just pull it out, tighten all the screws, but that's much more smooth now and it's not as wobbly. It's a little bit wobbly, but it's definitely not catching like it was before. So just pull out all the drawers, make sure that's smooth. This one's smoother. This one's okay now too. This one's okay, and that's okay. All right, so all of the drawers are okay now, all right? Now I'm just gonna give you a good far out shot of this to give you an example of what it looks like in the room. Okay, so for those of you following my channel and my apartment setup, this is the RedLemon dresser, so it looks really good. It's super tall. And these are the other items in my room. It's gonna be a minimalist setup with a Japanese Shiki Futon floor mattress. And so these are mats from Tokyo Tatami Mat Maker. They arrived today. I'm gonna do, or I already did a video on these, but I'm absolutely in love with them. They're beautiful. This is the Plank & Barn Forma end table. And virtually with this setup, I don't know the dimensions on this wall, but I had the apartment complex sent me the size, and it's virtually spot on. So literally there's only about like this much in between these two items, but it fits perfectly on this wall, which is exactly what I needed. And so that's kind of the whole gist of it. So this is the dresser. You saw the side table. Obviously there's some frustrations and difficulty with putting this together. We went over that, but I'll edit it to the best that I can to help facilitate it. If you have questions, comments, anything like that as far as this process, let me know. And then check out the other apartment stuff. This was the last piece of furniture, so I'm really happy with the fact that the whole apartment's put together now and I can finally be done putting together furniture. Obviously I was starting to get frustrated with it. But thanks for watching and have a great day.